To move Bahamians and residents feared a national lockdown due to the surge in COVID-19 cases. Good morning, everyone. I'm LaDawn Davis, and this is the Morning Edition. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Well, Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis announced that the national lockdown is absolutely necessary as government's ultimate priority is to protect and save lives during the second wave of the deadly virus. Altaviz Munnings has more on the Prime Minister's national address yesterday.
With 679 confirmed COVID-19 cases on record to date, increases in hospitalizations, the demand for intensive care unit beds, which is currently at capacity, non-critical beds that are approaching capacity, and an unfortunate increase in the number of COVID-19 deaths, health officials advised the competent authority, Prime Minister the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, that a complete lockdown of the entire country is vital to limit the surge in the second wave of COVID-19 cases.
The national lockdown will be for a minimum of 2 weeks. Nearing the end of this period, we will assess the health data and advise whether a further lockdown period is necessary. The extension, relaxation, or cessation of the national lockdown will in part be determined by the cooperation of Bahamians and residents alike. The longer we take collectively to bring this second wave under control, the longer it will take to resume a sense of normalcy.
According to the Prime Minister, the national lockdown will elevate health officials' contact tracing efforts to identify cases before they become very ill and prevent the spread of infection. Although Prime Minister Minnis contends in his national address that an increase in the number of cases is expected before the current surge is brought under control. Although the national lockdown announcement was made with short notice, Prime Minister Minnis acknowledged that Bahamians and residents will be able to access essential services during the lockdown. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays for essential workers.
And these include food stores, water depots, pharmacies from curbside or takeaway windows only, and gas stations for external services only. Food stores and pharmacies are encouraged to offer, and the public is encouraged to utilize delivery services as much as is practicable. The purpose of alternating days is based on health guidelines that strongly demonstrate that limiting movement and having clear days where there is no movement helps to minimize the spread of this deadly disease. All households are asked to identify one person to be the designated shopper for each of the essential services I have identified above. Our enforcement will be monitoring this and the number of persons traveling in vehicles.
Also on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays during the national lockdown, commercial banks and a skeletal team at international banks, trust companies, and financial institutions can operate until 1 p.m. Hardware stores can only offer curbside services from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and only emergency medical care and immunization services can be offered at private medical facilities. Curbside and takeaway dining is not allowed during the national lockdown. Construction is allowed Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., as well as virtual religious streaming services with no more than 10 persons. Graveside-only funerals with no more than 5 persons, excluding the officiant and mortuary personnel, and daily exercise in one's immediate neighborhood between 6 and 9 a.m. Public servants will receive instructions from the Secretary to the Cabinet and Permanent Secretary, and there is no change in the travel policy as outlined in the Emergency Powers COVID-19 orders. However, it's business as usual for home and health caretakers, essential commercial ports, and crop and animal caretakers.
Things will get better on the other side. and we can and we will return to some sense of normalcy. Once we have reduced community spread, we can reopen parts of our economy again.
Altavis Munnings, ZNS Network News.
The Prime Minister also listing enhancements to enforce quarantine measures in his national address. He referenced the contract government signed in May to monitor quarantined individuals within the 24-hour monitoring hubcap solution app that can mitigate any breach of quarantine and isolation protocols. Prime Minister Minnis explained that the Royal Bahamas Police Force has assumed full responsibility for the hubcap monitoring platform.
To date, a total of 25 police reserves have been trained, and an additional 25 will be trained. The COVID-19 Enforcement Unit Command Center, which is now operational, is located in the Cable Beach Police Station. The government has acquired 21 vehicles that will be properly outfitted with communication system and deployed with police officers and individuals as ambassadors to patrol public spaces, beaches, and parks predominantly. The ambassadors will be identifiable wearing their blue trousers and light blue shirts with caps all embroidered with the COVID-19 logo.
Prime Minister also pointed out that the program will create a perimeter around the site of the quarantined individual, and if there is a breach, members of the Health Surveillance Unit and the Royal Bahamas Police Force will respond.
I plead with those in quarantine to remain in quarantine until their quarantine period ends. Those who break the quarantine and who are COVID-19 positive pose a risk to others. While we are encouraging you to remain in quarantine, if you break quarantine, you will be fined.
Meantime, the COVID-19 numbers still showing an upswing with 31 additional cases on Monday. 22 of them are out of Grand Bahama and 9 here in New Providence. This pushes the country's COVID-19 count to 679. This growing trend not sitting well with health officials as they continue to appeal to residents to do all they can to help curb COVID-19. Lloyd Allen speaks with the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Delon Brennan, on COVID discoveries.
The cases that we're seeing in country now are really more attributed to a what looks to be not just related to travel, and then we saw a spread from travel to those who were in the same households as those who may have traveled, and now we're seeing more cases that are coming up related to workplace exposures, social exposures. So we're really seeing more happening around clusters and a movement toward community spread as well. And unfortunately, given that that's what we're seeing now, we had to look at recommending other measures in order to help us to control that.
And speaking about those recommendations, New Providence set for a 2-week lockdown that announced by the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, yesterday. He said, quote, "There's been an exponential increase in the number of cases, an increase in hospitalizations, and an increase in the demand for ICU beds, and sadly, an increase in the number of deaths. The more cases that present to health institutions, the more services will be needed." How critical are resources at this point?
So we are seeing our resources reach their capacity when it comes to how many persons we currently have in our institutions. We're also seeing, in places where we didn't necessarily have services before, we're having to open up additional services. So, the retrofitting of the South Beach Health Center to be able to take care of inpatient admissions, having to use a private-public partnership with Doctors Hospital to use Doctors Hospital West to expand our capacity, not just for inpatient, but also for intensive care unit capacity as well. We're doing the same thing in Grand Bahama. We're using the Cancer Association building, other partnerships that we can put in place. So we're stretching not just what we had already in the Princess Margaret Hospital, Doctors Hospital, San Andreas Rehabilitation and the like. We're actually moving to other facilities to be able to take care of it. So when we reach those capacities, even expanding our capacities, it definitely is a strain on the system.
Now, you talked about additional beds in Grand Bahama, but that island has also been under a 2-week lockdown for some time. What developments happening on that front?
So what the lockdown in Grand Bahama is allowing us to do is get our hands around all of the contacts of the original cases, and then find others who may be symptomatic, those who are finishing up their quarantine, getting them tested as well. So I think the same thing, we expected is exactly what's going on. We're getting our hands around the situation, but in doing so, the more testing you're going to do, the more contacts you find, the more symptomatic individuals you're going to find, those case numbers will continue to grow. We are, the good thing about it, of what we're seeing right now, is we're starting to see a slowdown in the number of individuals that are presenting to the emergency department for, that are really ill and have, really intense disease. So that's a good sign, but, we are far from comfortable because this is still early in those activities. So I don't that even with the lockdown that happened in Grand Bahama, for us to really see the benefit of that for another 2 to 3 weeks easily.
Wow. Now, additionally, what are officials hoping to accomplish across the country over the next 2 weeks? This in line with the Prime Minister's announcement for a 2-week lockdown nationwide.
I think the same thing that we saw in the original wave that we had in country, when you consider between March and, say, late June, is the approach that we are hoping to be able to accomplish. We want to be able to track down all of the cases, all of the positive individuals that are out there. We want to be able to find out who their contacts are. We want to get into those homes, get into those workplaces. We want to really be able to clean up the situation that we currently have, because we're just accumulating cases at such a rapid pace currently that it doesn't allow us to be able to really contact trace everyone with the expediency that we were before. So we're bringing on additional people, training them. But if you're just running behind the epidemic and the outbreak, then you won't have the ability to really train people to be able to do the work. So it's, trying to fix the car while you're driving it at the same time is a lot of, we just haven't had the chance in this new setup for us to be able to ramp up our capacities as quickly as we would like. So the shutdown allows us to be able to do that, to really address the issue, stem the tide of how quickly we're accumulating new cases, and then ideally we'll be able to sort of flatten out that the case accumulation and how fast we're getting them, with a hope that over, again, the next 3 weeks to months, that we start to really see the slowdown and the improvement showing up because of the interventions and the lockdown that's happening.
And another important component, we talked about it a few weeks ago, the importance of testing. You talked about a new slate of persons being tested, rather trained at the University of the Bahamas. How are those efforts going in increasing your ability to test more people?
Going very well. I think you can see from our testing numbers that, we're definitely increased that ability. We brought on some, doctoral level persons, some master's level persons, some bachelor degree level persons from the university and others and other places as well, for us to be able to move through our ability to extract DNA or extract molecular material from our swabs. We also have an increase in the number of places where testing is being done. So, that's definitely ramped up our ability to do, this testing. So, with our need that came along, where we were seeing more persons present, we had individuals coming from other countries that were high burden. So we had to have a different approach and an increased level of testing going on. But like I said, with that increased level of testing, it's an increased number of persons and capacities needed as well. So even though we've picked it up, we're still trying to add more capacity so that we can do it even faster.
Well, as you stated, a busy few weeks ahead. Thank you so much again, Dr. Brennan, for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For the morning edition, Lloyd Allen, ZNS Network News.
Stay close. We've got more right after this. You're watching the Morning Edition.
Today is a day for fun. Today is a day for family. So why should yesterday's worries affect my today? That's why I insure my family with J.S. Johnson, because their mission is to provide us with the best insurance coverage possible. With J.S. Johnson, I know my family comes first, so I take comfort in knowing that they always have us covered, providing us with a great today and an even better tomorrow.
J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents and Brokers, giving you peace of mind.
Hi, welcome to Dream Girls. We offer a wide variety of hair care, and your everyday beauty needs.
Here at Dream Girls, we carry a wide variety of products for natural or relaxed hair, such as ORS, Care, and Shea Moisture. We also carry a large selection of weaving, braiding, and crochet hair. You can expect to find a private wig room, a large variety of products, and service with a smile. Whether you're shopping for a party, a corporate event, or your everyday working woman, Dream Girls can make your dream become a reality. Live your dream, experience your dream, Dream Girls.
We have 3 convenient locations to serve you: Village Road Shopping Center, Prince Charles Shopping Center, and Legacy Plaza located on Prince Charles next to BTC Cash and Go. Here at Dream Girls, enhancing beauty becomes your reality.
It's a part of all our lives. ZNS TV is where we go for information, entertainment, and enjoyment. ZNS is there with something for everyone.
Kids, lunch is ready.
ZNS TV, a part of our lives for 40 years.
Hi, I'm Dr. Pinder. During this global pandemic, we ask for you to be responsible. As we fight the COVID-19 virus together, we would like to encourage you to do the following. Wash your hands. Cover your mouth and nose with a flex elbow or tissue when coughing and sneezing. Practice social distancing by staying 6 feet apart. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, and if you must go out, wear a mask. We stay here for you. Please stay home for us. To those of you on the front line, we salute you as we continue this fight together.
This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health in conjunction with GD Media Solutions and this television station.
Well, traffic is building up at this hour as Bahamians prepare for a 2-week national lockdown. Lloyd Allen and the morning traffic team is standing by with your daily commute.
Traffic report is sponsored by Bahamas First. First in insurance. Today, tomorrow.
Well, it's a great start to your Tuesday morning on a new week. Good morning, Ladon. Good morning, Bahamas. It's just a few hours leading into that 2-week lockdown here locally and nationally. And many drivers already on the streets getting those final essentials. And just before we have a discussion on that this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about weekend traffic, and helping to lead that dialogue is none other than our very own Cressenia Johnson from the Royal Bahamas Police Force Traffic Division. Good morning, Officer Johnson.
A pleasant good morning to you and a pleasant good morning, Bahamas. So there's some stats for you coming out the weekend period. We had 5 traffic accidents involving damage. We had 2 accidents involving injury and 1 hit-and-run accident. At this time, there are still 12 persons who remain hospitalized as a result of being involved in a traffic accident.
And so just on that idea of avoiding accidents and trying to stay safe, we know that many persons will be on the streets this morning, getting those final essentials leading into that 2-week lockdown. What advice can we offer drivers? We know they're going to be going to grocery stores, gas stations, water depots. What can you tell them?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is non-essential travel. If you're going onto the street, you're going to traverse the streets, and what you're going to do is not essential, we advise you as much as possible, general public, please do not do so. If you have to go to the grocery store, you're again advised to assign one person from your home, put a list together, organize what it is that you need, and then you proceed. There are also online and delivery services available to the general public, so as much as possible, if you can take advantage of these services, we advise you to do so.
And I know one of those factors that tends to kick in, we talked about this in the past as well, speeding. What can you tell people about speeding when it comes to approaching that 10 o'clock hour, obviously not wanting to be caught out of their properties during that time?
Well, I can think of so many accidents that we have experienced during that lot of time as relates to persons speeding, trying to get to where it is that they needed to go. As much as possible, again, I will state that safety is first. Safety is paramount. And anything, especially during this time, we're asking everybody as much as possible. If you have something to do during that time, there's no need to rush. If it's essential, just call the hotlines. They are available to you. Yes, officers are going to be throughout the streets here in New Providence and throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. However, if you stop to these officers and if you already contact the hotline, there's no need to be afraid. So contact the hotline, let them know why is it you're going to be traversing the streets. Once they give you the okay, then you're allowed to go. If they do not give you the okay, that means their particular issue is not that serious, and there can be some help to that. So anything that you have to come onto the street for, just contact the hotlines.
Now, Officer Johnson, I don't know about you, but I know for me, going into this lockdown, there's one essential that I have to get. So after work today, I'm going to be stopping in to get my Kit Kat, dark chocolate. That's my favorite. And of course, I'll be having that during the lockdown. What about yourself?
Well, all I can think about is that water depot down there by Chelsea Church. Of course, I've already gotten my water, but there are some people who are still down there. They were there even before we came out this morning. You know, we were out here real early this morning. So just advising the public as much as possible. Yes, you need these essentials, but as much as possible, if you could avoid it, avoid going onto the street, avoid social distancing. Remember, non-essential. If it's non-essential, you don't need it.
All right, so some great information coming in there from our officer, Creston Johnson, this morning, giving advice to motorists going into this 2-week lockdown. Reporting here this morning from the intersection of Village Road and Wolf Road, Lloyd Allen, ZNS Network News.
Thanks a lot, Lloyd. Now to the recent storm and how officials are reacting in the aftermath. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, is thanking officials of National Emergency Management Agency, or NEMA, and the many government departments and agencies focused on hurricane preparedness, as well as Bahamians and residents for their readiness ahead of the storm. Just hours after the all-clear was given, Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, led a contingent of officials on an aerial tour of the northern Bahamas. He was relieved that the storm turned out to be less destructive than all had prepared for.
We flew over Andros, Bimini, and the Berry Islands. The weather did not permit us flying over Grand Bahama. From the air, there did not appear to be much physical damage to structures. In northern Andros, there were only 2 blue tarpaulins visible on homes. NEMA and the Ministry of Works will continue their assessment and provide the appropriate responses to any need or damage that exists on the ground. We must remain vigilant and on alert for the remainder of the hurricane season, during which we are also battling this pandemic.
On the operations of Hutchison Bahamas and its services, the company announced that it had reopened for business following the storm and is following the COVID-19 guidelines. Meantime, officials on that island are providing an update on Grand Bahama following the storm. Here's Ramiko Knowles.
The Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, says that the island of Grand Bahama managed quite well, but there were several pockets of damage in Freeport and the eastern area of Grand Bahama.
The actual storm skirted to the west of us. Unfortunately, most of the wind and the rain was on the eastern side, and that meant that Grand Bahama experienced quite a bit of rain and quite a bit of wind. We are also getting reports that there was no major damage to the airport, there was no major damage to the harbor, and also that the Fishing Hole Road Causeway stood up quite well and remained open during the entire storm.
Now, it was also reported that no major damage incurred to the island's healthcare facility, as well as the Cancer Association. Both the Minister of State for Grand Bahama and the Minister for Disaster Preparedness Management and Reconstruction, the Honorable Iram Lewis, took a tour of the hospital and say that plans for the phased reopening are still on schedule.
Based on current projections, and progress being made, we still during the month of September, we still expect that to happen. And one of the things that we want to stress is that we're doing phase opening. Critical areas, emphasis being placed on those, the lobby area, the concierge area, the pharmacy, the pediatric wards, the male-female wards, the surgical, the operating theater, COVID-19 section, the temporary operating room. We expect that by the first part of September, some of those areas will be open.
One of the things we wanted to note was we wanted to make the transition into the new COVID unit. Obviously, given the situation that the island is facing, and given that we are going to be facing this situation, I believe, for the foreseeable future, we wanted to make sure that we have the necessary COVID beds. And we now have a separate COVID unit that has all of the necessities for a COVID unit. And that would take some pressure off of the Cancer Association.
Emmanuel Way in High Rock is one of the areas assessed by the Disaster Reconstruction Authority and the Ministry of Works. The road was rendered impassable after Hurricane Dorian and was patched to allow movement of vehicles, but the tropical storm has caused damage to the roadway once again. Minister Lewis says funds are being allocated to construct a seawall in the area.
And this is going to be more than just a seawall. It's more like a defense mechanism for the community of High Rock. And now more than ever, based on conditions from this tropical storm alone, we can see that the level of damage, the road is a complete washover. It's impossible. It speaks more than ever to the urgency of such an undertaking taking place as soon as possible.
Now that we are in the clear, Minister Lewis reminds all that we are still in the fight against COVID-19 and measures to mitigate the spread are still in effect. Ramiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Meantime, the district administrator for Acklands, Crooked Island, and Long Key, Gilbert Kemp, says residents in those areas successfully weathered the storm with no loss of life or any damages reported.
Island did relatively well. Long Key, they said they had no complaints. Acklands, we still have some challenges down here in Acklands. The road by Hard Hill, from Snug Corner going over to Hard Hill, it's still flooded, eh? So that separates the north from the rest of the island. So it's a challenge for persons moving back and forth. So we have to use like trucks that are extremely high in order to get through the water, even to carry water down for persons on the northern side. Eventually, we got some electricity restored down there sometime late last night.
The administrator says residents are also enjoying a quiet Emancipation Day holiday and are looking ahead to a busy Crawford season.
I think most people are going to just be quiet because for the past couple of days, people were frustrated, eh? Because when you're dealing with the COVID and you team that up with a hurricane, it's stressful, eh? So people today, I've spoken with a number of them, they said they're just going to take it easy. They're just going to take it easy. I spoke with a lady in Salina Point, some of them hoping now that the waters would calm down a bit because, it's crawfish season started, and the people, especially on Acklands, they live off the sea. They're anxious now. They want to get out to the sea in order to be able to provide for their families. But there's not a whole lot going on the island today.
The Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation indicating that these challenging times may not be the best market for many businesses facing rough days. However, Chamber CEO Jeffrey Beckles says while efforts remain on the table to assist struggling businesses, finding a new footing may be the saving grace for many.
The reality of it is not every business is going to survive this kind of shock, economic shock. But common wisdom will say, hey, look, is there an opportunity for me to partner with somebody else in a similar business? Or I may have to simply look at what I used to do and streamline it and get some more advice. You will find that that's conventional wisdom. Those businesses that are applying that are finding that they're being introduced to new ideas and innovative thinking, new technologies, a new way of doing businesses, new ways of delivering their products and their services, and are realizing that, hey, wait a minute, I should have been engaging somebody else a long time ago.
Beckles explains that tourism remains an important component of the Bahamian economy despite dismal projections for the month ahead. However, opportunities for investment and transformation remain a possibility to those willing to think outside of the traditional business model.
We always talk about ownership and partnership. Well, this is a great opportunity to start talking about how can I get involved in the tourism space? What specific product do I need to get involved in? How do I develop that with a view of becoming good at what I do? And so, whether it's cultural, whether it's lodging, whether it's ground transportation, whether it's entertainment, whether it's in marine, or not, this is a good time to look to see what are going to be the growing needs, the emerging needs out of this pandemic.
COVID-19 pandemic impacting the reform and modernization of the justice system. The nation's Chief Justice, Sir Brian Moree, says as the nation seeks to make the justice system more efficient, the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed the efficient process of the court system.
We are trying to retain the most important elements of the reform and modernization plan. We are certainly going to make progress. I have had to accept to scale back some of the reforms. I have had to accept changes in my timeline, and to some extent, we will have to phase the reforms and modernization, so I will not accomplish as much as I wanted within the time frame that I was planning to do this. But I say that we remain optimistic with the assistance of the executive branch in these difficult times to provide necessary funding to make some of the important changes.
The Chief Justice provided some of the highlights of the initiative.
But we're still working on our integrated case management system, which is going to be transformative because it is going to allow the court to deliver a whole range of electronic services. We will be moving to an e-filing platform, which is going to fundamentally change the registries and how we deal with paper. We are proceeding with our digitization project to move from a heavy dependence on paper, where we go from managing paper to managing information, and that's going to be critical for our efficiencies and our productivity. We're moving ahead with our digital recording system, which is going to increase the productivity and the efficiency of court proceedings.
And we are live in Fox Hill when the morning edition comes right back.
Successful parenting through COVID-19. Being at home with your child for a long time can feel stressful, especially when they misbehave. Children can also feel stressed as their daily routines have changed. Manage negative behavior through creating schedules, planning indoor activities and outdoor activities, giving responsibilities, and rewarding good behavior. All children can be mischievous. You can discipline without yelling or physically harming by giving timeouts, taking away privileges, and even giving chores. It's okay to take a break. Pause for 10 seconds, breathe for 5 seconds, then give a calm response. Listen to your children's feelings and be supportive. Avoid unhealthy behaviors like drinking alcohol, smoking tobacco, or risky sexual behavior. Feeling overwhelmed? Contact our hotline at 819-7652 or any of the numbers that appear on your screen.
Everybody, are you on TV? Look, are you on TV? Mom, guess what it is? That's me. Bartender, do you see me? Are you on television? I gotta tell my girlfriend are you on television?
Hello?
Babe, turn your television to ZNS. Quick, are you on television?
I don't have a TV in there.
We have Wi-Fi, though.
We have Wi-Fi.
That's fine. They upgrade now. You can watch it live from your phone. You just have to download the app.
All right, hold on.
Go to the App Store, type in ZNS, download the app, and you'll be able to watch ZNS straight from your phone. Hurry up before it's over there.
Get your news and more anytime, anywhere with the new ZNS app. Stay connected from around the globe with our live stream news updates, all in the palm of your hand. You can also listen to the ZNS Radio Network for your favorite music. Go into your Apple or Google Play Store and download the ZNS app today.
Present check? Miss I's star now. I still gotta pay?
It is important to take precautions to reduce your risk of getting infected with COVID-19, even when you go to the grocery store. Practice physical distancing that is 6 feet apart from others while you wait in line to enter the store. One person per household needs to go. Use wipes to disinfect the cart or basket handle that you select. Avoid touching your face, unnecessary items, and surfaces. Try to touch only what you are buying. So carry a grocery list to help you move along quickly. Do not forget to wear a cloth mask while you do your shopping and carry hand sanitizer with you. Practice physical distancing that is 6 feet apart from others as you shop and at the cash register. Spend as little time as possible in the store and get enough groceries to last you for a while. Once your groceries are packed and loaded, use hand sanitizer and rub your hands together until they are completely dry. When you come home from the grocery store, take off your shoes at the door and put all of your grocery bags in one area. Disinfect your grocery bags. Rinse produce and wipe down cans and packages with soap and water before you put them away. Wash your hands thoroughly for 20 seconds when you are done. Wash your clothes and your reusable grocery bags.
This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Welcome back. Quite often we see the men and women frequently on the side of the roads or on beaches. This morning, Cleopatra Murphy takes a look at their role in keeping the island clean.
Hurricane Isaias left debris strewn across the island after its departure, leaving work for staff at the Bahamas Public Parks and Public Beaches Authority to do in its immediate aftermath. The entity is charged with keeping the country's parks, beaches, and roadways clean, but Executive Chairman Shannon Don Cartwright says even its operations have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Adhering to the social guidelines does prevent some challenges, but one of the good things is that as we work in these large open spaces, it does give us the ability to, we have the advantage, I should say, of being able to spread out and still address the task at hand.
The authority has a staff complement of 250 who work across 7 zones on the island with 7 supervisors. John Moss is a supervisor for Zone 1 and explains what advanced work entailed in relation to Hurricane Isaias.
Well, we made sure that in the areas that some of the trees that may became dangerous, something to make sure that those were trimmed. The bins that were not fastened down, we moved and secured, and we just make sure that the litter was up, that it wouldn't be blown all over the place, because as you can see, there's no litter basically blown, at least a few limbs that is down, and we're out here now to deal with that right now as we speak.
He says it was that advanced work that limited the cleanup in the aftermath of the storm.
It was me and one person out because I was responsible for Bay Street, so I came around Bay Street. We checked some of the bins that may have overturned, that was not bolted down, and was secured. We dealt with them, and we have other zones, 5 other zones, checking the areas to make sure that all the bins and the litter are taken up in a timely manner. And then we move forward to the inner city where we might have smaller areas that may be contained afterwards with the small amount of staff that we have to deal with due to the pandemic.
Where work calls for larger equipment, the authority works with the Ministry of Public Works. Cartwright says the agency prides itself on being proactive.
Knowing that the storm was, the impending storm was coming into our country, we made sure to set out our normal plans that we put together during the hurricane season, and it's just a matter of executing, and just very proud of the work that all of the team of supervisors and senior management continue to do, the job that they continue to do in meeting our responsibilities.
Cleopatra Murphy, ZNS Network News.
Also this morning, Alive is tightening up its telephone services, zeroing in on the Family Islands left disrupted by Hurricane Isaias. Here's Chief Financial Officer Dwayne Davis. A local funeral home finding themselves under heavy criticism for the way they handled a burial on the weekend. Here's Charles Fisher with the scoop.
Making rounds on social media this past weekend was an interment in a public cemetery that Kirsch Ferguson, president of the Funeral Directors Association, says was in poor taste.
What was circulated on social media was the incident involving the interment of a deceased person. Apparently it was a graveside service in a public cemetery. What was very disturbing to myself, members of the association, and the general public was the manner in which the interment was done. It was in poor taste and at the same time not consistent to what we do traditionally here in the Bahamas.
Not naming the funeral directors, Kirsch stated that he did reach out to those responsible.
I thought it best to reach out to them immediately to find out what was going on and why did they allow such a thing to happen in such a manner. In the first instance, the grave was shallow. Proper mortuary lowering device equipment was not used, and at the same time, the manner in which the grave was closed was inconsistent to what we normally do.
Graves are dug to a certain height, and if not done properly, can cause environmental damage.
Most certainly, especially as we experienced this weekend with the passage of the storm, water beating down on the grave that is not properly covered, or a grave that is not to the proper depth. All those things can occur and cause undue hardship for the family and the general public.
On this note, he is trying to get all funeral homes in the country to operate under one umbrella.
All funeral homes operating in the Bahamas presently are not under the ambit of the association. And it's a reason that we want to address in short order with legislation. We want to be the agency that gives a green light for government to allow funeral operators to open. We require persons to be academically trained by an accredited institution and at the same time have a number of years of experience under their belt before they venture to render service to the general public. Secondly, to give consumers the protection they need in terms of fraudulent activities by funeral directors, mishandling of monies or pre-need contracts and the like. Secondly, we want funeral homes to be properly inspected for sanitization purposes. In addition to the Environmental Health Agency that now oversees that, we think more structure ought to be brought to that whole incident, and at the same time allow funeral directors to continue to have continuous education to more or less recertify themselves on an annual or yearly basis, however way government wish to put it in place.
For the Morning Edition, I'm Charles Fisher.
The country marking Emancipation Day on Monday, however, with the recent passage of Hurricane Isaias and the health and safety restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic, celebrations are limited. Emancipation Day is a pivotal moment in our nation's history that commemorates the end of slavery in 1834, paving the way for thousands of slaves of African descent throughout the British Empire to be freed. Now, to mark the occasion, residents over in Fox Hill on a limited scale will celebrate today. Here's Lloyd Allen.
Well, good morning again, LaDon. Good morning, Bahamas. This morning we're here at the St. Paul's Church in the Foxhill community, and I'm speaking with several religious leaders along with the Member of Parliament for the Foxhill community, Ms. Chanel Ferguson. We're talking about the Emancipation Day celebration, which of course is it's being celebrated a little different this year, and that's as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Good morning, and talk to us a little bit about how things have changed this year.
Good morning, Bahamas. This year is just so very different. This year is so very different for us. We're used to everything that goes with Emancipation Day. Foxhill is one of those traditional villages that has never, ever not celebrated Emancipation Day. So this year, keeping in mind that we must keep everybody safe, that the protocols are for our own good, we thought we would find a way to signify what this day means to us. And we've done it in a way that is very Foxhill. In the past, as a little girl growing up in this community, every Sunday morning, the bells of the churches in Foxhill would ring, calling us to worship. No matter where you lived in the community, you could hear the bells ringing. And so this year, to mark our emancipation, our delivery from slavery, we've determined that we will ring all the church bells in Foxhill all at one time to let people know that God has indeed delivered us, and we are making note of it. In addition to that, we hope to have one drummer just beating away on the drum in honor of our ancestral voices. We cannot forget where we've come from and what those ancestral voices mean to us.
Now, Reverend Raming, I know that this morning, making this announcement, this effort must have taken some coordination. So talk to us about how local pastors have joined forces to make this initiative work in light of current circumstances.
Well, traditionally, all of the churches would have gathered on the Foxhill Parade in Thanksgiving, sales of Thanksgiving, right? And that started ever since from emancipation, from Big the News, they say, all right? And the three traditional Baptist church at that time, they gathered at the Foxhill Parade in prayer and thanksgiving to God. And since then, it's spread throughout the community of all of our churches, the Anglicans, the Catholic, the Methodists, the Church of God, etc. And we would have been on the parade yesterday. And one of our local pastors would have been the featured speaker. We sort of rotated every year. And of course, yesterday, unfortunately, we were not able to. But then we thought that we should not let this time go without some sort of recognition. And that's why we're here this morning. Amen. But they say don't let the old flag fall. And we do not intend to let that old flag fall. And so we're here today, this morning, giving God thanks for, in spite of, we still can rejoice in the midst of all odds. All right? And we talk about the ringing of the bell. We thought, well, we will do that. That'll be a sort of waking up the community and make them more conscious of the fact that we haven't forgotten Emancipation Day. What, 186 years? Amen. I've been celebrating it. I'm almost 80, and I've been celebrating it from I ever had since. And so this is a long tradition here in Foxhill Village. Reverend Anderson?
Yes, good morning. I'm Reverend Anderson from the Mount Carey Union Baptist Church, and we're just here today celebrating Foxhill Day along with our Member of Parliament. We did not have the opportunity on yesterday to celebrate it the traditional way that we would have, but we thank God for the opportunity today to come and, as was stated already, to ring the bell and let folks know that indeed that we are alive and we're free. No matter what's going on in our society, we can still say we give God thanks for the freedom that He's allowed us to enjoy. And so today we're going to ring the bell at this time.
Let me just add this, put a little plug in here. This month of August, we would have been celebrating our church's 150 years since we've been existing here in the village of Foxhill on the same site. Of course, we've had a lot of plans and
because of what's going on. We had to cancel some plans. But in spite of it, whenever we assemble together, we would remember where we've come from, and we will give God thanks. The last Sunday in this month, we'll be celebrating our church's 150 years of existence. Thank you.
The event begins at 12 noon, and it's really an ecumenical event. We're expecting the Anglican Church, the Methodist Church, the Baptist, so it's across ecumenical lines. And so at 12 we begin. By 12:30 we'll be finished, and the bells will begin to ring.
All right, so some beautiful information there, of course. One last thing before we wrap up. Again, we know that many kids are at home. They've been doing the homeschooling or the virtual schooling for several months now. But Reverend Raming, if you can quickly, in less than 30 seconds, or rather, Minister, if you can tell us in less than 30 seconds, what again started this Emancipation Day celebration?
Well, it started from the a party for the children, they tell me, way before my time. It started with, they call it Party Day. And the children of all the Baptist churches and people who were not Baptist went to the Baptist churches to celebrate Emancipation Day. And it's grown into what it is today. But we're going to give you just a sample of the bell. Reverend Raming is going to ring his church bell.
All right, so let's take a listen in. This, again, is a 150-year-old church. It celebrates its 150th anniversary, and today we're hearing the ringing of that bell. And so again, of course, at 12 o'clock today, the celebration begins with the ringing of the bell. As Minister Ferguson alluded, there's also going to be a soul drummer boy parading through the community, recognizing those Emancipation Day and the significance of those persons who would have recognized the start of freedom here in this community. Reporting from the Fossil community, Lloyd Allen, ZNS Network News.
Right, and it's time to get that legwork in with Downtown Natasha Brown.
Come on down, Natasha Brown has got you with the ultimate fitness. Hi, good morning, and welcome to another dynamic session with Downtown. Remember, the only thing that we manage is our energy. Yes, we are on lockdown again, but guess what? Let's get right into this full body HIIT routine I've got for us. Let's get started. Our first exercise is going to be walk out into a plank. So let's get into a plank first. Walk into the toes and then walk back. Okay, our next exercise is going to be push-ups. Is now going to take us into lunges with tricep extensions. All right? So let's go back into a lunge and a tricep extension. Lunge. There. 3, 4, 5, switch. Take it into a curtsy lunge, where we take it Pause here. Take it, elbow stand to handstand. Awesome, team. Now we're gonna take it into extend arms, hair, back. Downtown, Natasha Brown, taking you closer to becoming your ultimate you.
Now to your weather forecast. The trailing moisture associated with a tropical storm will continue to affect portions of the northwest Bahamas, while a weak high pressure dominates weather conditions elsewhere today. Boaters in the northwest Bahamas should remain vigilant for possible waterspout activity. In the northwest Bahamas, weather cloudy and hot with a few scattered showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms today through tonight. In the central and southeast Bahamas, weather partly cloudy and a bit breezy, mainly across the southeast Bahamas, with scattered showers and the slight chance of isolated thunderstorms in the central Bahamas this afternoon. Those conditions will be mostly fair and a bit breezy, with a slight chance of passing showers tonight. Now remember to stay tuned to the ZNS Network, your best choice for local, regional, and international COVID-19 coverage. And that's a wrap for us this morning. For the entire team, I'm LaDawn Davis. Make it a great day, everyone.